Morning. On this Wednesday, Lucas, Burt, and me for the next 3 hours. Teresa Walker is going to be in here to try and make sense of it all. The news, of course, as many of you woke up to, I'm sure. Where were you when you found out that DeAndre Hopkins was getting traded from the Tennessee Titans to the Kansas City Chiefs? Were you perhaps brewing your morning coffee? Were you taking the dog for a walk? Were you wiping the crusties out of your eyes in your pajamas like the rest of us? But that is, in fact, the news. DeAndre Hopkins on his way to the two-time defending Super Bowl champs. He's going to try and chase a ring. And the Titans have waved the white flag of surrender, if not officially, in all but in name at this point. 615-737-1045. You can jump in. Brian Callahan's press conference. We have a reason to play it now. We're going to carry it for you at 12:15 today because not only is he going to be asked questions about Hopkins, and whether or not they were being truthful about the situation with DeAndre Hopkins at the end of the Bills game, because now that's bubbling back up to the surface, the way that they handled him. Soreness, quote unquote. Callahan said something Achilles soreness related. So it could still be true, and they could have been resting him for injury purposes, or they could have been trying to trade him, or realizing that he's not going back in to a 2-score game and saying, all right, we'll try to move him as soon as we can. There is a lot of, there's going to be a lot of discontentment, but at the end of the day, this is the right move. Like, this is the thing that has to be done. It's unpleasant. You don't like it. You don't ever, again, we were already asking who's the best reason to watch the Tennessee Titans right now. What is this Patriots game going to look like in a couple of weeks? At Nissan Stadium, when you've told your fan base, yeah, we're good. We're all set here in week 8. Let's start selling.
It's the trouble of being a seller. Patriots aren't in the same situation because they're trying to build around Drake May. They are still hoping to find out if they have their guy and their number 3 overall pick at quarterback who's barely played. But that's the trouble of being a seller. So acknowledgement that will lead to more, the DeAndre Hopkins trade, or just doing right by DeAndre Hopkins? Titans fans hope it's both.
So you're saying acknowledgement
of the situation that will lead,
and that they're going to move more parts here?
Right. That will lead to a larger scale rebuild, or is this just doing right by DeAndre Hopkins in this moment, and this is all we see? The hope is it's both.
Can be true, because they're definitely getting interest in players like Jeff Simmons. Now, it's my understanding that they have no intention, as of today, at 10:05, 10:06, Wednesday, October 23rd, that they have no intention of moving Jeffrey Simmons. But my position would be, don't half-ass this thing again. Isn't that what that felt like with Byard and not Henry last year? Where they're saying, I know they can say whatever they want about not getting any trade offers or not having terms agreed to with Derrick Henry, and there is plenty of reason to believe that Amy got emotional and vetoed the trade with the Derrick Henry situation. But I cannot justify, because this is the right decision. I can justify this decision based on where you are. Logic dictates that you should start selling parts because you are one of the worst teams in football. But if you're jockeying for quarterback position at the top of the draft, then you damn sure better be the worst in this. And if you're not the worst in this, where you're competing with right now, the Panthers are 1-6, the Patriots are 1-6, the Browns are 1-6. Those are the teams that are at the very, very bottom before you start to get in teams that have already lost 5 games but have 2 wins. This team is 1-5. Don't half-ass this thing again. I'm not saying commit to the tank, but commit to the rebuild and try and acquire as much draft capital as humanly possible. They're not interested in moving Jeffrey Simmons right now. It sounds like they should be. And I don't say that, as any kind of personal attack on Jeff. They should also be interested in moving Quandre Diggs, who is playing decent football. They should also be interested in moving Harold Landry. They should also be interested in moving Amani Hooker. Strip this thing down to the studs and try and get as much draft capital as humanly possible and commit to the idea that you're rebuilding and instead of trying to make decisions that are justified at the time of making them, but selling the fan base on it being more. That, I think, is the biggest issue that Titans fans are probably taking with this today. That when you traded for L'Jarius Sneed, gave up draft and listen, you needed cornerback help. Again, I want to say this. We bought into what they were doing because it all made sense. That's the thing that drives you crazy. It all made sense. But it's failed spectacularly, and even if you did have good intentions going into this thing, you're 1-5, and that your intentions don't matter anymore. The only thing that matters is results. So moving Hopkins makes sense. Everybody should be on the table that is not clearly and obviously a part of your core. You're not moving Will Levis before the trade deadline, but I've never felt stronger about moving him at season's end. And I feel the same way about players who you could move before the trade deadline, even if it means that this roster looks like the replacements when they're trotting it out. And by the way, they should still be trying to actively win games, even though that's antithetical to what the fan base wants. The fan base wants tanking. You cannot have people in your organization that are willing to tank. I stress that. That is the biggest disconnect between the people who are coaching and playing for your football team right now and the people who root for the team.
You're still trying to build a culture with a new coaching staff. Like, that matters.
Oh, and now the focus is squarely on the coaching staff. You got to show us something. You got to show us something. And listen, he's Callahan and company. I won't just make it about Brian Callahan because it's not just him. That's failed so far. But they're safe at the end of the season, if for no other reason than it would be an admission of the owners making a mistake in the decision that they made to move on from the previous coaching staff and do everything that they did in the aftermath of that, right? That would be Amy Adams Strunk raising her hand and be like, yeah, you know what? Got that one wrong. Let's try it again. You can't. Even if it's the best thing to do, and I'm not saying that it's the best thing to do, but there is such a slim percentage chance of that kind of mea culpa being out there after you've just said and done all the things that you spent this offseason saying and doing. 615-737-1045 is how you can react. Teresa Walker is going to be in here. A local professional team got a win last night. I don't know if it matters in the aftermath. Preds win 4-0. They get their first win of the season. They have the same record as the Titans at 1-5. So that's at least, I guess, a step in the right direction on the local sports front. Scoop says, Buck, you actively root for chaos and you got what you asked for. Unfortunately, it's the team that you cover. No, nobody's having fun.
Oh, that's not true.
With this.
You are delighted by this.
Oh, you think?
Oh, yeah.
No, I really enjoy talking to DeAndre Hopkins. This is a worse situation for everybody involved for him not being here anymore, even though I am happy for him to go from literally rags to riches, from Mason Rudolph, Will Levis, whatever the hell this is, to Patrick Mahomes and give him a viable receiving threat. And the Chiefs needed it, by the way. Not only did Rishi Rice go down with a knee injury earlier in the year, he's expected to miss the rest of the year, right? He's done for the year, and you had Hollywood Brown, who the Chiefs paid in the offseason.
He's done for the year.
Go down in the well, he's done for the regular season, is what they said. Chiefs are going to make the postseason. Fair assumption. So we'll see if Hollywood Brown doesn't make a return from a shoulder injury he sustained in the preseason. Then you have Juju Smith-Schuster, who this team also brought back, dealing with hamstring issues right now. They just need wide receiver help, and it got to the point where they had to make the move. Now, the thing that makes it feel a little bit stinkier is that the Titans are reportedly going to have to eat some cash on this deal because they have no leverage. It's just, please take our wide receiver and give us something. And the terms, do we have Peter Schrager, or is this Rap Sheet, Bert, talking about the reported terms on the DeAndre Hopkins deal? Let's hear from Rap Sheet, Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network. Adam Schefter, by the way, first to break the news in the wee hours of the morning.
This has been a long rumored trade really over the last several weeks, several months. I mean, literally forever, it seems like we've been talking about when are the Kansas City Chiefs, who lost Hollywood Brown early in the season, have a need for a big-time playmaker, are not going to have Juju Smith-Schuster this week. When are they going to trade for DeAndre Hopkins? And really, this didn't kick into gear until about midnight Kansas City time. At that point, the Chiefs and the Titans got together, kicked back and forth a couple scenarios, finally figured out a way, maybe sort of, to get this done. And the news was out early this morning. It is going to be a conditional 5th-round pick going from Kansas City to the Tennessee Titans. That could be a 4th-round pick based on a series of team and personal conditions. DeAndre Hopkins' salary is also going to be split among these two teams. The Chiefs do not have a ton of salary cap space allotted for these kinds of moves, so the Tennessee Titans are going to eat some of the salary just to facilitate this move and get a little bit of a better draft pick. But for Tennessee, it has not been the season they wanted. I'm not so sure DeAndre Hopkins is unhappy about going from the Titans to the Chiefs, so certainly this makes sense to them. Get rid of the salary and recoup a big-time draft pick for that. And for KC, they are undefeated. They're awesome. We know they still need a little juice on offense, and they have certainly gotten some juice with DeAndre Hopkins, one of the best receivers of his era.
So insult to injury. Not only are you sending DeAndre Hopkins away to a team that's probably going to win a Super Bowl, you have to pay the Chiefs to take him.
Well, it tells you it's more about the draft pick than having to pay DeAndre Hopkins.
Which we knew, but it's still a fifth conditional to a fourth, and the conditions are not inconsequential here.
We don't know the conditions, right?
We do know the conditions. The conditions are being reported by Peter Schrager. In fact, I think, didn't you send that clip to the group this morning?
Oh, did I?
To save the time, it's the Chiefs make a Super Bowl appearance and playing time are the two incentives.
So
we don't know the exact amount.
No, we don't know the percentage of play time. No,
right?
Okay. And we also don't know whether it's a one or the other, or if it's a combination of the two.
So
we don't know. We don't know fully how much money on his salary they're going to have to eat here, because apparently this is still being negotiated, or at least it was as of this morning when the deal was first reported on by Adam Schefter.
And we don't really know the conditions that would turn it into a fourth-round pick. But it tells you then, if you're bringing up Harold Landry or Jeffrey Simmons in a potential trade, that it would be more about the draft pick than just offloading the contract.
Oh, yeah. No, they need draft picks. They have 7 right now heading into 2025. They don't have the third-round pick because they traded that for Snead. But right now they have a 1, 2, and a 4. They have the 4/5 conditional pick. They have another 5, a 6th, and a 7th. You have wide receiver, Jordan Reed posted this earlier. Wide receiver, right tackle, and edge are clear needs. He adds, also could be another team that's in the quarterback market, to which I add, this team better be in the damn market for a quarterback. There's no could be about it. You set out on this thing understanding that there was a rebuild connotation to it. And then it blows up in your face when you think that you've done enough to rebuild but be meaningfully competitive. Now you're facing a real rebuild. Like, this thing never bottomed out. 7-10 and 6-11 may have felt like bottoming out, but this thing is now bottoming out. And so decisions are going to have to be made. We'll take your reaction to it. Teresa Walker coming up next. I'm Buck Risings, 104.5 The Zone. It certainly is. Welcome back to the show. Sad Boy Radio continues here on 104.5 The Zone.
Sad Boy and Girl Radio.
That's right. Teresa Walker, we're thinking about selling these hats for charity, Teresa. I haven't gotten around to charity. The Titans continue to suck faster than I can figure out how to sell the hats for charity. But can we interest you in a Sad Girl Radio hat at some point in the near future?
Maybe, because this is the time of the year and the time for a season in a team with the record as it is, that this becomes a job.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
we are working hard for the money.
That's Teresa Walker of the Associated Press. Here in studio with us. She was on her way to the facility right after we quit taking her valuable time up, where there will be a press conference. We will carry the press conference. We were talking about not carrying Wednesday press conferences anymore, but now there is reason, because the Titans have traded DeAndre Hopkins, and Teresa, my position is it shouldn't stop there. But before we talk about how we got here, let's talk about what this feels like in relation to. My first year in Nashville was 2015, but I was not yet covering the Tennessee Titans, which was Whisenhunt in 7 games. Then Malarkey is the interim. They win, 2 more games than they had at that point in the season. It's Marcus Mariota's rookie year. They end up with the number 1 overall draft pick. They trade out of it with the Rams. They draft Jared Goff. But the vibes around the organization, Whisenhunt territory, we are now in it. Even though Brian Callahan is much easier to deal with as a personality, how would you compare these two situations from the football standpoint?
Well, the product and the team, both bad. I mean, the record is ugly. I mean, let's face it. They lose Sunday in Detroit. They're 1-6 for the first time since 2015, and that start cost Ken Whisenhunt his job. And he was in the second season of his 5-year deal. The difference is that Amy Adams Strunk took over the team in March of 2015. That deal with Whisenhunt was made by her brother-in-law, Tommy Smith, and he was in such a hurry to make sure that Whisenhunt didn't go to Detroit. He sent the plane, and paid.
Sent a private plane for the Whisenator, baby.
Him, baby. Oof. The challenge now is you have your coach. And you played the clip on Monday. They believe they crushed it in hiring Brian Callahan, and Rand Carthon is in his second season as a GM. And this is the problem. They are digging out of the ghosts of botched drafts past. There is one player on this roster from the 2020-2021 drafts combined in Dylan Radins. And that's the problem. That's why they had to spend so much money this offseason. They're trying to fill holes, and they couldn't fill every hole that they still have on this roster. And think about this. Hop's gone. They just put Traylon Burks on IR. They're going to have to take a look at some of these young receivers and see who can step up to the moment.
There is a clause, by the way, that I didn't know about. In 2018, owners did approve the ability to trade for players on injured reserve. So for those of you who are interested in seeing Traylon Burks moved, while I still think that's highly unlikely, it is not completely off the table.
It was suggested by Jeremy Fowler of ESPN during some of ESPN's coverage approaching the trade deadline.
Has he watched Traylon Burks? Has he seen his production? I mean, that is just such a bizarre concept that I can't even entertain it.
Well, then you're just relying on him as a first-round pick, right? You're simply relying on teams remembering maybe what their scout was of Traylon Burks and thinking we could do better with that. And
coaches always think they can get something else out of a guy that somebody else couldn't. That's the problem with so many guys who, and then you learn the painful problem, and that it's actually the player sometimes. So, hey, if I'm the Titans, please come take a look at everybody on our roster. But the problem is you still have, look, they made a move yesterday, adding Isaiah Prince to the practice squad. They're desperately searching for a right tackle. Isaiah Wilson was supposed to be that guy, right? Nicholas Petit-Frere was supposed to be that guy.
Radins.
Exactly. They've again, John Robinson drafts botched past, killing this team.
Sure. And that is a completely fair assessment of why things look the way that they look, Teresa. But again, I go back to the comments that you brought up and that we played earlier in the week, is that they let the marketing get ahead of the football, and making the amount of changes that they did, assuming that things were going to be appreciably better, if not from a record standpoint, which I'll grant you, like you can improve things and not necessarily have a better record, but on the offensive side of the football, where they are focused around the quarterback that they drafted. I know Brian Callahan isn't, Will Levis is not the anchor around Brian Callahan's neck, but this front office drafted Will Levis. They do all of this upselling, understandably so. We buy in. I bought in, at least. I can't speak for you.
I picked them to finish second in the AFC South because, yes, with the money, the pieces that they brought in, on paper, it looked good. But, to circle around to the point I think you're making, it all rests on the quarterback taking a step. And, they led. They were up in Chicago. They had a 10-point lead Sunday in Buffalo with the league's, stingiest defense against the pass and on the yards allowed. And yet they have not been able to close the deal again because of the quarterback play. And that's the thing that is absolutely killing them at this point. And the only team that has turned the ball over more than them in the NFL, and Mason Rudolph's doing it as well, as we saw on Sunday, the Raiders. And that's it all hinges on getting it right at quarterback. And that's why they've got to see what they've got in Will Levis down the stretch. And this is where, and if they have to go drafting or finding another quarterback in the offseason, God help them because, I'm sorry, I'm not on the Shedeur Sanders train.
No, not on the prime train or the Shedeur train or all of it?
None.
So with Levis then, there has to be a fall guy here. No? I mean,
yes.
you don't do all of these things. You don't promise Lombardi aspirations. You don't give the interview that Amy Adams Strunk gave to you about the direction that this franchise is heading and bottom out worse than you have in the last 2 seasons when you thought it wasn't going to be able to get worse, and it can always get worse.
They keep digging.
Somebody's head's got to roll here. And I'm not saying, I don't know who specifically it's going to be, but there has to be some level of accountability for why the product has flopped as badly as it's flopped. And I keep coming back to Will Levis as the most obvious fall guy in the midst of all this and thinking, Teresa, that it doesn't necessarily make sense to do anything. But if you're going to ride it out with the rest of the season, that's fine. As long as the locker room is bought in on that too, I can come to terms with that. But I almost think you have to move him at the end of the season just to give yourself more runway if you're Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan.
Well, that's the thing. You've got to see what you've got in him. And as of last week, Lloyd Cushenberry told us that they believed in Levis. But, at a certain point, does that, worm turn? But, you have to see what you have in Levis. And then, pray that somebody thinks they can pull off a Jared Goff, revival. I mean, that's the one good thing. We've got quarterbacks on second chances with other teams, Baker Mayfield in Tampa, showing that they can be the starter for a team. And, I mean, what Jared Goff is doing in Detroit, nobody would have thought that possible. They all thought that, Hendon Hooker would probably be starting by this time this season. And yet Jared Goff has absolutely become the guy there. So pray that somebody sees Will Levis and says, no, I can make that work.
Oh, well, that's exactly what this organization did en route to drafting him.
Yeah.
Teresa Walker of the Associated Press here with us.
Could have had
in
Hendon
studio.
Hooker. There's some people in East Tennessee and across the state saying that as we speak.
Damn it, Teresa, don't do that to me
I'm
right
sorry.
now. I'm going to get called.
Help.
Stop it.
Who's
I'm
that?
just back there. Look at him grinning over there.
Well,
Look at him grinning.
And then Trey Smith, who, a guy who has, been a starter for a Super Bowl team in Kansas City, lasted all the way to the 6th round. John Robinson could have had him.
So a lot of people probably have the mindset of Bucks of someone's head's going to roll, right? And with the last couple of years with Amy Adams Strunk, firing John Robinson, firing Mike Vrabel, there's probably a lot of assumption for people that, okay, well, who's going to be the next guy if they do bottom out at 2-15, 3-14? But my question to you, and maybe it's an unfair one because you're not in the building, you're not a fly on the wall in these conversations, but what do you think was the honest discussion within that building in terms of, do you think there's any element of Amy Adams Strunk, Rand Carthon, Brian Callahan, decision makers saying, we're going to give this a go around Will Levis. We think he can take a step and be the guy. But if he's not, then we take a step back and we rebuild this thing in earnest. We're going to give him every possible chance, put him in the best possible situation. But do you think there was any acknowledgement of, hey, this might not work and we're going to have to go back to square one in terms of them all being on the same page about that? Do you think that is a possible scenario in this?
It's always possible, Lucas, but let's remember, on Monday, Callahan told us that he talks with Amy every Monday, and that she knew, and they were all on board with the idea of using this season to evaluate and get a concrete evaluation of Will Levis. And that's the thing. You spent all that money and the draft capital to try to help surround him with talent, to put him in position to succeed, and now that's not happening. Well, the problem is, who else can you get rid of? That's the thing. You've got a new coach that you endorsed. You've made a lot of promotions in that building, of people that are relatively new to the franchise. They brought in Chad Brinker. They brought in Rand. There's not that many more deck chairs to rearrange or throw overboard, for people looking for a scapegoat. So, Will Levis is the most likely scapegoat at this point because he plays the quarterback position. So, do you toss aside an assistant coach or such at this point? The problem is, again, I just keep going back. You're paying the price, and it is painful. I've got fans filling my feed now saying, "Why am I want a ticket refund?" And it's like, sorry, you paid your ticket, you're taking the ride, you're stuck here, and they're going to go through something right now.
I get that they're all on the same page about evaluating Levis. I just don't know how you can even pretend to keep the locker room, the rest of the locker room that is going to be here for the foreseeable future, not guys that you can jettison at the end of the year who are on expiring contracts. I just don't know how you can keep players' attention by saying, we're going to go back to Will Levis come hell or high water, essentially, even though Mason Rudolph gives them the best chance to win football games, Teresa. And I get that fans don't want to win at this point because winning does you really no good at this point when you're not mathematically eliminated, but your season is effectively over. I just don't know how, as a coaching staff, you can afford to lose the locker room by going with a quarterback that doesn't give you the best chance.
JOBS, jobs. That's why these guys have their motivation. If they're not playing here next year, they're playing somewhere, and that's what it comes down to. There's times when it's bad, it's ugly, and you are playing to stay in the NFL. And Calvin Ridley is a guy that he may be the scapegoat. Think about that. I mean, he's the guy who got the 4-year deal, and how many catches? I mean, we've seen him drop balls. The best catch he's had is that 40-yarder for the touchdown that we all thought was intercepted.
The most improbable catch I've seen this year.
Exactly. But right now, the Titans on Monday, before the Monday night games, the doubleheader, they had a 5% chance of making the playoffs. And that did not improve with this deal. So, they are further to figuring out what their draft status is and maybe playing for they haven't drafted in the top 5 since 2017 when they took Corey Davis at number 5 overall.
Oof.
Yeah, another pick that did not turn, another first round. How many? I mean,
I'll give him a pass on that. I know how damn hard they tried to get out of 5. Nobody wanted to come up.
Well, and that's the thing. That's the problem and for all these people saying you need to trade this, that, and the other, guess what? You gotta have a buyer. And right now, if I'm the rest of the NFL, I'm sitting back. It's like, waiting. I think somebody used the sell thing on social media this morning where the Titans are. Well, if you remember the movie Trading Places, they had to be patient and wait to the price. That's what NFL teams are doing right now. They're looking at the Titans and they're saying, no. You're going to go cheaper on that. I'm not overpaying for somebody right now.
Kansas City just did it. They just said, reportedly, they're making Tennessee eat a portion of this salary as far as the conditions just to buy the draft pick up to a 4th.
It's about the draft pick. Exactly.
They're paying somebody to help them throw a chair overboard. So that's where they're at right now, and it's going to get uglier. We've got to watch these games. Titan fans, ratings, and I remember during that 5-27 stretch with Wisenhunt into the Malarkey interim stretch, there were tickets available late in December, early December. $2 on StubHub. So if you haven't been to a game at Nissan Stadium and you want to go, guess what?
Now's your chance.
Ticket prices are going to be very comfortable. Yeah.
Teresa, it's going to be us and friends and family in that thing in 2 weeks from now.
Been there, done that. And that's why I'm grateful I'm being paid to go.
Amen.
There's a lot of people that have not been to a Titans game that would like to go, no matter the circumstances. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. How will you remember DeAndre Hopkins' time in Tennessee?
Thank God he was here.
Yes.
He didn't catch a touchdown pass in a Titans uniform until Will Levis got into the lineup against Atlanta. Are we forgetting that?
That's insane.
I know. That's the thing. You sign him just before camp. You sign him, you bring him in, and he doesn't catch a touchdown until October 29th. And he still led you in receiving last year with a 1,000-yard season. And, and then I probably remember lastly that look that he gave Brian Callahan on the sideline because,
In Buffalo.
Yes, in Buffalo. He was looking at him, had his helmet on. It's like, oh, so it's like that. I mean, I've given that look to coaches when I've been in the, on the bench in softball. It's like, I'm the best person you've got on this team. Why are you playing them ahead of me? And then with the towel over his head in the final minute or so, it's like you just knew that it was over.
He is off to the worst start of his 12-year career. The only time that he has produced less in the first 6 games of an NFL season is when he was suspended for the first 6 games of an NFL season, Teresa, going back to 2022. The numbers are egregious. It's not it starts and ends with the quarterback. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. It doesn't matter, no matter what was done in the season. You go as far as the quarterback takes you, and that is always the thing to hone in on. But again, I say if you're going to try and evaluate Will Levis, have you not just undercut him? I mean, I know that the passing offense is what it is right now, and it doesn't matter who's out there. He's not making it function the way that it needs to function. But to your point, that was his most reliable target when he was playing well enough or good enough to make you think that you could continue to build around him and continue to grow and progress with him. You've just taken away the most reliable thing that he has, not named Tony Pollard. I don't know how you can sit up there and tell me that you're going to try and get a full evaluation of the quarterback and sell DeAndre Hopkins away for parts.
Well, you've got to get an evaluation of Calvin Ridley as well. And, DeAndre Hopkins played 44 snaps. Ridley had 58 the other day. And, yes, I know Hopkins had 1 catch for -2 yards. But, he started the season slow coming off of the knee. But, he had a couple games where he led the team in catches and yards. And he was right up there near the top of the charts, even with his slow start for this team. So I think he'll go to Kansas City, and Patrick Mahomes will find him early and often because his hands are still good. That was the problem with Julio Jones. He relied on speed and maybe not so much the route running in the hands. D-Hop has got the hands, and he will be where Mahomes can find him when he needs him. And for this team, it's going to Jaquan Jackson, come on down. Some of these young receivers, and God help me, Nick Westbrook-Akine, come on down. I mean, No,
not God help you. God help all of us. He's the only saving grace of this damn football team.
Exactly. And sorry, Nick, if you're listening, but it's like that's the status of this team, that when you're having to turn to him to be a reliable, pass catcher, that's a big indication, an indictment of where this receiving core is right now.
We're going to let Teresa Walker go do her job because she has things to cover. There's a press conference at 12:15. Teresa Walker will be there. We will hear her questions when we carry that press conference live today. T, thank you for the time.
My pleasure.
That's Teresa Walker. Coming up next, we'll take your phone calls on the DeAndre Hopkins trade, the direction that you think the franchise is heading in, and also Lucas has SEC observations.
We said last weekend was going to be the week of separation. It was more the week of balance because Georgia came out and smacked Texas around in the first half, held them to 1.1 yards per carry, and Kirby Smart's yelling at ESPN, saying nobody believed in us. For once, he's kind of actually right when he says that. And we are back to balance in the SEC. Did you watch this game?
Yes. I fell asleep, but we keep it moving.
We keep it moving, he says. Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning both played in this game. Neither of them gave Texas a better chance to win on offense. Now, where do you see the Texas bounce back coming? Because we've seen the Georgia bounce back after the Alabama game.
Isn't it against ranked Vanderbilt?
It very much could be. After a big win, Georgia has to play Vanderbilt. What could possibly go wrong?
You
Ask
say
Alabama.
Free money, whatever Texas is favored by, go ahead.
I don't know what, Texas has to play Vanderbilt, rather. I don't know what the spread is on that game.
I dare you.
LSU and Texas A&M have shown a bounce back. Tennessee has shown a bounce back, but still looking for better early performances from the offense. Alabama did not show a bounce back from their tough loss against Vanderbilt. They looked bad against South Carolina, and they lost at Neyland Stadium. Kentucky got embarrassed last weekend in Gainesville. They lost to Florida. They got blown out by Florida, and you have to credit Florida and Billy Napier for keeping this team fighting. I don't know what the vibe is in Lexington right now for a team that's gotten blown out by South Carolina and Florida.
Vibes are bad.
And somehow beat Ole Miss on the road. So things are weird in Lexington, Kentucky. I don't know how that fan base feels right now about Mark Stoops. It's a strange place to be for a coach that's given you by far the best success you've ever had in the modern era. Auburn got embarrassed at Missouri. They led 17-6 in the fourth quarter, were basically on the goal line with the chance to go up 24-6. They get stopped. They miss the chip shot field goal, and then Missouri storms back to win that game. I can tell you want me to really wrap this up, so I'm going to drag this out.
It's not for me. It's
really
for the audience.
Getting some Billy Napier vibes down at Auburn. And I don't care that Hugh Freeze is recruiting well. They just keep losing. So at some point, the losses outweigh the recruiting success. Oh, and Oklahoma is terrible. Yeah, they're terrible. They can't move the ball. They're playing high schoolers at wide receiver, it would seem. And at some point, the dam is going to break on a very good defense. And we're kind of seeing that with the Titans right now, too. Isn't that how it felt in Buffalo? The defense plays really well in the first half. But at some point, when the offensive success or lack thereof is hitting a wall as bad as it is, and you're talking about 90-second drives, the dam's just going to break on the defense. Like, there has to be a complementary element of that. It's easy to look at that defensive performance in Buffalo and say, oh, they gave up 34 points. How can you call that a defensive performance? But at some point, the defense needs help from the offense. Oklahoma's defense is excellent. It's one of the most talented in the SEC. It's one of the most well-coached in the SEC. They're getting zero help from the offensive side of the ball, and that dam has broken in Oklahoma. Vibes are bad with Brent Venables. Everybody's talking about Georgia. Everybody's talking about Texas. Everybody's talking about Tennessee after the win over Alabama. Nobody's talking about Texas A&M. Nobody's talking about LSU. Those are the only two undefeated teams in the SEC right now. They play each other this Saturday night. So balance is the theme right now across the SEC.
Would you guys like to guess the Vanderbilt Texas line for this week?
I'm going to say 21.5.
I'll say 17.5.
Off by a point, 18.5.
18.5 where?
For Texas.
No.
He said, who's favored?
That's been the number in a couple books.
Okay. 18.5 is what Vandy's
If you would
saying.
like me to say your book, then sponsor us. How about that?
Fair enough. I will. I don't give you compliments often enough, largely because you don't deserve them. But that was an expert way to try and tie things back into the Titans, given that the Titans are the subject of the day. So well done by you. You deserve credit for that.
LSU at Texas A&M
That doesn't
Saturday
mean continue.
night. That is the game of the week in the SEC at 6:30. The more you're trying to speed this up, the more I want to slow it
not
down with
for
every
me.
fiber of my being.
It's not for me.
Everything
Do it
Buck
for the
does.
audience.
Everything Buck does is for the audience
Today,
and not himself.
actually, because there's only one thing that they care about, and it's the local professional football team on fire.
Well, according to you, Titans fans are checked out of the local professional
They
football
are until
team.
you start selling parts.
Lucas, maybe we should allow him to wave his white flag.
That was pretty bad.
I assumed you would have Twitter Premium within the hour.
Yeah, wrong wave.
That's tough. Don't ever call
But you know
Lucas
what?
out on misspellings and polls again.
I won my 8th grade spelling bee.
That's the only time it's ever happened to me. Lucas misspells one poll per day.
Luke, the polls are come from your account. I don't know. This is like
you can try and use me for a meat shield all you want. One day I'm going to be gone.
It says
and that day
Buck
you are
Rising.
going to get so exposed. The two of you.
Don't you
when
try
the
to do
two
that.
of you can't hide behind me anymore. You two are going to get so exposed.
Buck's doing the sad grandma thing. One day I won't be here anymore.
That's right.
My granny, when she was mad, she'd say, well, I guess I'm going to go in a garden and eat worms. Like, don't nobody love me. Don't pull the mad granny stuff on
I'm just
us.
saying, you can hide behind me now, but there will come a day.
Says the man who uses me as a meat shield anytime we talk about SEC or anything college football related.
Well, that's because it's safe there. Anyway, with everything that is going on with the Titans, obviously the news of the day is the trade of DeAndre Hopkins. To Lucas's point, Oklahoma is a shining example of what the Titans are right now, right? When you, and we've said this for the past 3 seasons, right? So forgive us if we're in repeats. When you cannot score, what?
No, I was just making a face. You halted things. I was making a face because somebody brought up something we egregiously missed from the Texas game, and that is a call getting overturned because fans were throwing trash on the field. Did you see this?
Yeah.
A terrible call.
Kirby's right to bring it up.
A terrible pass interference
Did
call
he get
on
fined
Texas.
for that, by the way? Because I saw I was listening to Pate. Pate played the post-game comments, and Kirby's for sure getting fined for that. He should not be.
I don't know, but Texas got a big interception against Georgia and then got called for pass interference and negated the interception. Awful call. Texas fans rioted. So much trash, completely covering one end zone. And then after a long discussion and then cleaning up all the trash, suddenly officials decided to pick up the flag after getting a few looks at it on
That's
the
such a bad
Jumbotron.
look.
It's a bad look.
Such a bad look.
They arrived at the right call, yes, and most of the time, I don't care how you get to it. Just get to the right call. But Kirby is right. Kirby is right. It sets a dangerous precedent. Tennessee fans foaming at the mouth. You mean if we just throw trash, we can change the call on the field?
We'll go on the road and throw trash. We'll do it at home. We got golf balls. We got mustard bottles. We're ready for you.
That was an insane moment in Austin on Saturday.
615-737-1045. The point being, though, with everything, especially that Oklahoma game, when you cannot score points, everything is magnified. It is not just that the Titans offense could not give their defense a legitimate chance. I also think there's something to, Lucas, the idea of the Titans defense getting exposed by the best offense they've played this year.
It is the best offense they've played this year. Yeah.
And I'm fine with, because you can still cite the total yardage. They are tops in terms of total yardage, but they looked much worse. And I understand that Snead wasn't out there and Awuzie's not out there. You're not perfectly healthy, but you're not going to be perfectly healthy throughout the course of the year. So I'm not going to absolve the defense from letting Josh Allen score on every damn possession he had in the second half of that game, though I do understand that the offense's ineptitude helps foment the perfect storm there.
Like Josh Allen and the Bills were always going to find answers on Sunday.
It just took them a little while to figure it out.
It took them a while to figure it out. And at some point, the offense has to keep the Bills on the sideline long enough to help out their defense. This is why people fake injuries sometimes in college football.
Neil is up next on the Titans. Hey, Neil.
Hey, guys, I appreciate y'all taking my call today. Just want to say this. If I'm the Titans, I'm selling the farm. I'm trading Simmons for whatever I can get. I mean, you basically got Simmons 2.0 in Sweat because they can stop the run, but they can't hit the quarterback. And I think, Sebastian Joseph Day, he's got more sacks than Simmons. And then I'm getting rid of Carthon and Brinker. I don't like the GM. I don't like Brinker. I think he's an idiot. And I would probably try to go get John Dorsey or even maybe Rick Spielman, just somebody with some experience, because I think Spielman drafted well. Free agency in Minnesota wasn't that great, but I don't know. I can't imagine that Amy's happy right now.
No, I'm certain not. Thank you for the call, Neil. Again, everybody's got a price, so it doesn't mean that anybody on the roster is untouchable. But I don't think that they have any intention of trading Jeffrey Simmons right now. Dumbest thing in sports this week. We got giveaways. We got stuff.
We have stuff to give away. You can go see Kevin Hart next year at the Pinnacle. 2 tickets to go see Kevin Hart.
615-737-1045. All you have to do is call in and give us your dumbest thing in sports this week. Unlock your engine's maximum performance with Castrol Edge Full Synthetic. It protects for 20,000 miles between oil changes, 3 times stronger than the leading full synthetic motor oil. For a limited time, you can get 5 quarts of Castrol Edge at O'Reilly Auto Parts and receive 3 times O rewards points plus a $15 O'Reilly gift card after rebate. O'Reilly Auto Parts is celebrating the 25th anniversary of their famous jingle, and they want you to be a part of the celebration. They want you to submit a cover of the jingle, a remix, or your own choreographed dance for the opportunity to win exclusive merch and prizes, including 3 $5,000 grand prize winners from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Submit your video to O'ReillyJingleContest.com now through October 31st. Terms and conditions do apply. No purchase necessary.
11:02, good morning from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Tennessee Titans are trading wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins to the Kansas City Chiefs, according to multiple reports. In exchange, the Titans get a 5th-round pick that could become a 4th-rounder. Hopkins' Titans career ends with 90 catches for 1,230 yards and 8 touchdowns in 23 games played. The Titans are preparing for a trip to the Lions on Sunday. Brian Callahan will meet with the media at 12:15. You can hear that live right here on The Zone. The Nashville Predators grabbed their first win of the season on Tuesday, 4-0 over the Boston Bruins at Bridgestone Arena. Both Luke Evangelista and Ryan O'Reilly with a goal and an assist. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
It sure is. 615-737-1045 is the number. What's the dumbest thing in sports this week? You give us your dumbest thing in sports this week. We will give you the opportunity to win 2 tickets to see Kevin Hart win, Bert.
This is next year in April, I believe April 13th at the Pinnacle.
615-737-1045 if you would like the opportunity to win those tickets. My dumbest thing in sports this week is anybody who, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty on the Titans, so I'll leave that for somebody else. Did you watch the NBA tip-off last night? You had the Celtics.
Did I watch the NBA? The most electric 5 points in a game I've ever seen scored by a player in NBA history from Dalton Connect yesterday. And
oh, that's right.
Bronny James Jr., just a good pick. Just a good pick by a functional, smart organization in the Los Angeles Lakers.
Well, the Celtics drubbed the Knicks in the first game, and then the Lakers beat the Timberwolves in the second game. Anybody that was just immediately urinating on the LeBron James, Bronny James storyline, it was cool. Like the Ken Griffey Jr., Ken Griffey Sr. thing with the two of them, it was cool. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. But there was plenty of people who were doing, you know, the tongue-in-cheek type of stuff, or maybe worse than the tongue-in-cheek type of stuff about Bronny. It wasn't anything special as far as the performance went. But the idea, the concept, I don't blame LeBron for doing it. I think it's, you know, at least something, if you want to actually root for the Lakers the way that Lucas is committed to rooting for the Lakers this year, you can do that. But anybody dumping on that, I thought that was lame.
And for what it's worth, there's going to be a bunch of second-round picks this year that don't put up any statistics. Bronny had a rebound last night.
Yeah, he did. Lake Show. What's your dumbest thing in sports?
Chris Stewart is a fine professional. He is the Alabama radio play-by-play broadcaster.
Take him out.
He replaced Eli Gold, who is a legend.
Take him out.
And that's a hard thing to do.
Stop saying nice things.
By all accounts, he's a very nice man.
End him.
This was Chris Stewart on the Alabama radio call during the Alabama-Tennessee game on Saturday.
2nd and 16's not what you're looking for, especially with the noise level being what it is here. You got 100,000 plus, and they also pipe in crowd noise as well.
Oof. Oh, buddy, no.
I love that so much.
That is au natural. There is nothing artificial about that crowd noise that is disturbing your starting quarterback, forcing Alabama into pre-snap penalties, discombobulating the offensive line. No, Chris Stewart. That does make me think. You guys piping in crowd noise? Down in Tuscaloosa?
Should we be piping in crowd noise this whole time?
Yeah. Is that something other people are doing? That makes me think that's something that you guys do if you think it's something that we were doing.
I would like the Titans to pipe in crowd noise.
Was Dolly at the game?
Not that I know of.
Okay, so you were correct in saying nothing artificial was at the game.
Oh, boo.
Come on. Boo. I love my little improper fraction. It's not a bad thing.
Boo. What's your dumbest thing in sports this week? Shame on you.
My dumbest thing in sports is, I hate to do this, but I've got to give it to the Titans as a member of the AFC. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a fantasy football league with a guy who is just better than everyone else. Fantasy football is 80% luck, 20% skill, 100% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 15% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name. But if you are in the AFC, you should not be giving the guy who's won all the championships, has been taking your hard-earned money. Last year, you wouldn't even trade Derrick Henry to the Ravens. Oh, can't do it. Can't let the Ravens get that dog. But you're going to give the Chiefs an extra bullet? What are we doing? You've got to come together to be like, those guys are tyrants. I don't like that Andy Reid's fat and nobody makes fun of him for it. I don't like that Patrick Mahomes gets away for having an annoying girlfriend and terrible brother and awful dad. I don't like that Travis Kelce's old as hell and no one's talking about regression. But no one's going to talk about that because they're going to win 3 rings in a row. And it's all because of you. Come on. Be a conference. Be in the AFC, baby.
Spoken like a true fan of a contending team.
Baltimore
What are we
Ravens
doing in 2024?
No, but you know what? I'm so with that because and listen, all three of these. No, I'm totally with that. All 3 of these situations are not created equal, whether it's DeAndre Hopkins, Derrick Henry, or A.J. Brown, right? Like, we all understand the varying circumstances that saw them go for one way or another from this team to another team where they are having or going to have more success. We understand this. But the optics of this team looking like it's a feeder team for NFL contenders is so frustrating.
They've got a lot bigger problems than the optics of trading Hopkins to a contender right now. Okay,
Lucas,
the Titans got to worry about the Titans.
Seriously, you are entirely welcome to take this segment seriously, but the optics of it are hilariously bad. On top of everything else, I am pro Burt in this situation.
You're telling me they couldn't have went around just like I do. Anytime that I get a job offer elsewhere, I go to our boss man and say, hey, boss man, they want me over town. They want me somewhere else. They want me in Hawaii at the biggest radio station in Hawaii. And we're going to raise that price up. You're telling me they couldn't have went to Tampa and been like, hey, the Chiefs are offering a fifth. It could be a fourth. If you just give me a fifth, and that could be a fourth, I'll give them to you. How about that? They didn't even call nobody. They picked up the phone. Oh, somebody wants to give us a draft pick. Send him off to Kansas City. Come on. You're just hurting me. Just hurting me at the end of the day.
And that's hurting the Ravens.
615-737. Oh, that's hurting him. Burt, famously a Ravens fan. 615-737-1045 is the number. Let's start with Chris in Murfreesboro. Hey, Chris.
Hey, guys. How are y'all doing?
We're good.
Hey, you kind of stole my thunder about the noise being piped in there at Neyland. I was there at the game, and I have to wear earplugs even when it isn't third down. And I watched it on TV, and I finally got to hear the spooky Rocky Top that they do play on third down because you cannot hear it in the stadium. So that gentleman has obviously not been to Neyland once, and I hope he never does. But, yes, I believe that was one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. If you've ever been, your eardrums would be bleeding if we piped in any more noise.
Thank you for the call, Chris. We appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I've only been to Neyland once, and my head hurt for the next 2 days afterwards. Is that the first time? Because you mentioned Eli Gold has been doing these games. I don't know how often Eli travels because I know he's a little up there in age. And I don't know that he wasn't traveling. I'm not sure of the situation for Eli Gold, but could this have been the play-by-play guy's first experience at Neyland Stadium?
Well, no, because he's been part of the Alabama broadcast crew. Yes, okay. So I am very positive Eli was on the call for Alabama in the 2022 game, but Chris Stewart would have been in the booth with him. But also shout out Roger Hoover, who is part of that broadcast crew, a Tennessee alum as well, and a very good guy and a good broadcaster.
KJ is next.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Uh,
Don't listen to the radio. Listen to me on the phone.
Okay, I'm also calling in about the Tennessee-Alabama game also, the substitution infraction. They didn't allow Alabama to get the subs in as they was made substitution, and they rushed the guy. Other than calling the timeout, they rushed the guy on the field, and he ended up getting hurt.
Appreciate the call, KJ.
I'm trying to figure out what the dumbest thing in sports is. Is the dumbest thing in sports the faking of the injury, or is it the fact that they got penalized?
Oh, yes. So you're alleging the injury was not a real injury?
Oh, yeah. No, that time I'm comfortable doing that. Did you see that? Did you see that sequence? Yeah. I've never seen a more egregious. Get out there. Get hurt. Go, go, go. He took 2 steps on the field and tumbled down.
I think it might be. KJ is alleging that the injury is not fake.
Okay, well, then that's the dumbest thing in sports.
Jason is next. Hey, Jason.
Yes, my dumbest thing in the sports is the Celtics tying the game-winning, the three-point record with 10 minutes left in the game, and then absolutely bricking the next 10 three-pointers.
It was the only reason worth watching the game, Jason. They had so many wide-open looks, even well after they pulled their starters. They had the opportunity to break the NBA record for the most three-pointers made in a game yesterday against the Knicks at home, and right to defending their championship, the Boston Celtics, and they couldn't buy a shot in the last 12 minutes of that basketball game. It was brutal to watch.
It took me a second to pull it, but the caller before this last one reminded me of this.
Down.
Ham sandwich. That's what you were looking for.
Maybe Courtney will give us something actually worthwhile here. Hey, Courtney.
What's going on, brother? I got it right here. The dumbest thing in sports is Eli Drakowitz and Missouri Tigers, after winning their sixth game, wearing bowl-eligible T-shirts.
No!
Come on,
that's
now.
it.
That's the winner.
You're going to Jelly Roll. Or no, it's not Jelly Roll.
It's not Jelly Roll. It's Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart.
I'll take Jelly Roll.
No, Kevin Hart. Sorry,
it's Kevin Hart.
That's the winner.
Jelly Roll tickets
That
already.
is the winner.
That
Missouri.
Is so good, Courtney. So good.
Preseason top 10 team. The goals of a college football playoff berth. Expectations coming off a double-digit win season and a bowl win over Ohio State. Celebrating qualifying for a bowl game like you won a division title in the NFL is insane. Yes, that is a great submission by Courtney.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they had T-shirts and everything.
I'm so mad.
Celebrating being bowl eligible like that wasn't the most bare minimum.
Is he the easiest coach in the SEC to root against, Drinkwitz? He just seems like such a goober with some of this stuff, you know? And maybe it's also because of the way that he looks. He looks a bit goofy, too.
That's the type of thing that scares a fan base about a coach's, like how a coach measures success, right? Like that's a very Butch Jones thing. If Butch Jones had done that at Tennessee, we'd all be looking around, does he think that? Does he think that's what we wanted out of the season? Because that's terrifying if it is. Missouri's got a lot higher expectations coming into this year than bowl eligibility. That's a great submission.
If Vandy did that, we would crush them. 615-737-1045 is the number. So that is it for the dumbest thing in sports this week. Always call us 11 o'clock on Wednesdays for the opportunity to win great prizes and also get the dumb things you witnessed in sports off your chest. Coming up next, this is a headline on ESPN. Where the Titans rank among the NFL's most hopeless franchises. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Oh, really? Today with this? Okay. Are you? This is your pregame Titan song. Are you in a mood to, as they say, tighten up?
I'm never not in the mood for this song.
I think that's the first time I've said that. I don't know about that.
I apologize. I didn't know this was your anniversary song. I didn't know this was y'all's song.
It's not our song. It's Lucas and Blue's song. So I would not take that. That's the most sacred relationship in Lucas's life. It's with his roommate. Blue.
Roommate?
Not with please laugh like that's not the most real thing we've said today.
This was traditionally our pregame song before watching/going to Titans games.
Well,
and we played this song on the air after every Titans win for quite some time.
Been a while.
Well, we played it after the Dolphins game.
Oh, I don't remember.
Maybe we should play that then. It's been a while.
Yeah, that honestly is more apt. At this point, the news of the day is DeAndre Hopkins being traded from the Tennessee Titans to the Kansas City Chiefs. Adam Schefter first on the news. Right now, everybody else in wait-and-see mode. They do not seem intent. They seem to have no plans in place to move Jeffrey Simmons, for example. But everybody has a price, so it's all situations are worth monitoring right now when your team is 1-5. Trade deadline is less than 2 weeks away. It's also election day. I voted yesterday. I hope people go out and early vote as well. Have the two of you voted?
I will today.
I'm not going to vote until the Titans get a win.
No, brother.
Don't know if there's a cutoff to this sort of thing.
Yes, it is also the trade deadline day, so I know that's more in your calendar than election day. But yeah, early voting, total breeze. 10 minutes at the Bordeaux Library.
Yeah, they do play the Patriots before election day, so there is an opportunity.
Some symbolism there. Anyway, so DeAndre Hopkins traded. Now, that seemed like the most likely outcome, right? That Hop is not here anymore, that Hop is going to go play for a contender. And by the way, good on the Titans organization for doing right by a player who's been nothing but a good soldier. Like, I know that there's going to be a lot of people burying the Titans today, and rightfully so. They're 1-5. They're wretched. But in light of that development, moving DeAndre Hopkins to a place that he's never played in an AFC or a conference championship game. He has played both in the AFC and the NFC, never made a conference championship appearance. Fair to expect that the Chiefs will give him the best chance for that, if not a Super Bowl.
I'm glad DeAndre Hopkins will not be lumped into the Randy Moss, Andre Johnson, Julio Jones bracket for Titans fans, because he came here and he bucked that trend.
He was a stud. Now, again, he was off to the worst start of his 12-year career with, 15 catches for like 170-something yards?
173 yards.
173 yards and one touchdown.
Against the Packers in garbage time.
It's the worst start to a season that he has had, except for the 2022 Cardinals season when he was suspended for the first 6 games of an NFL season. It's the worst 6-game start to DeAndre Hopkins' 12-year, potentially Hall of Fame caliber career.
Having a 1,000-yard season with that offense last year, with that revolving door of quarterbacks, Tannehill, Willis, Levis, and 8 touchdowns, all in the second half of the season. To me, that's the equivalent of a 1,600-yard season with 12 touchdowns somewhere else.
And you know what? He played in every game here. Even with the knee thing. He played in every game while he was a Tennessee Titan. Maybe he didn't start every game, but he appeared in every game. So
Cole on the F&M Bank chat says he also embraced the city more than any player I can remember.
And I put this out on Twitter, and I don't know if it's any consolation. But the silver line, if you love DeAndre Hopkins, because a lot of you did love DeAndre Hopkins in the short time that he was here, the silver lining to that is he may not play for the Titans anymore, but I bet he's still going to be involved in Nashville as a city, because I know he's invested in the music industry. I know that he is invested in the youth football community here. He has maintained relationships both in Houston and in Arizona despite leaving them. He continues to support flag football in Arizona that he worked with the Cardinals in conjunction to do. The Cardinals kept that alive with him, even though they moved on from him at the end of the season. So I bet DeAndre Hopkins is still involved in the city of Nashville despite not playing football here anymore, no matter what that involvement looks like or is. So yeah, for a good soldier on a bad football team, they did right by DeAndre Hopkins. It's as nice a thing that you can say about them right now. But in the absence of that, we often look at these Bill Barnwell articles because he often chooses interesting topics to write about on ESPN.com. And today's headline is the NFL's worst teams in 2024, ... and beyond. So not just in 2024, but forecasting who is going to continue to be the basement dwellers in this situation, which team needs actively a rebuild. So these teams are not necessarily ranked in order of who is the most hopeless at this particular point, but the Tennessee Titans do appear on this list. And it's a situation that you completely understand why, because they set out this year to build around the quarterback Will Levis. That does not look like it was successful. So now, even if you went into the offseason, this past offseason, under the impression, okay, rebuild, and then you get more excited because, Calvin Ridley, we weren't even trying to get Calvin Ridley, and we remember that conversation. We weren't even trying to get Calvin Ridley. Got Calvin Ridley anyway. Spent all the money, all the right boxes checked, yada, yada, yada. Levis doesn't pan out. So now you're talking about a much more considerable reset at the most important position on the roster that's going to impact everything around it. And this article went up prior to the DeAndre Hopkins trade, but that was, a part of the expectation, and it doesn't change the formula. So if I presented this to you, worst teams in football right now, let's just take the 1-win teams. Browns, Panthers, Titans, and Patriots. How would you stack those teams in terms of
viability for a first number one pick?
Not even that. Who has the most optimistic outlook given their situation right now? Because there is the case to be made for the time. I'm not doing silver linings radio today because the team is 1-5 and there are no silver linings at 1-5. I mean, there are, but you understand. But looking at all these different things where you have put together a roster that we still do believe to be talented, yes, like the players. L'Jarius Sneed and Calvin Ridley didn't forget how to play football when they signed long-term contracts with the Tennessee Titans. Like, we still believe talent to be on the roster despite the quarterback situations.
No, I get what you're asking. For me, you put Panthers and Browns automatically at the bottom of the list.
At the top of the list in terms of most hopeless.
Most hopeless. Okay,
most
yes.
Hopeless.
However you want to stack it up. Most hopeless, yes. Panthers and Browns. Panthers probably unanimously have the worst ownership in the NFL. And the Browns have the Deshaun Watson contract to worry about on top of everything else that the Browns have gone through over the last however many decades. Then you look at the Titans versus the Patriots, right? The Patriots don't know yet on their quarterback. Titans feel like they do. So what is a more hopeful situation? That acknowledgement of, okay, we're going to go find our quarterback now, or the hopeful nature of, man, I hope Drake May is going to be the guy. What happened?
Breaking Titans news. Hit the sound. Hit the sound.
Here we go.
Breaking Titans news on 104.5 The Zone.
I hate you so much.
I couldn't find it.
Here we go. Trade. The Seahawks are sending linebacker Jerome Baker and a 4th-round pick to the Titans for Titans linebacker Ernest Jones, the 4th per sources. So, team acquires Ernest Jones. What was the compensation on it? Was it like a 5th round, 6th round? We need to look back up the compensation
that they sent to the Rams.
That they sent to the Rams for Ernest Jones. I think they might have upgraded that draft pick and also gotten a linebacker. For a linebacker.
It was a 5th, a 2026 5th in exchange for Jones and a conditional 6 in 2026.
Okay, so this is a solid move, but again, this is why everybody's up for grabs. So you had a player on an expiring deal, another player on an expiring deal, Ernest Jones. You gave up the 5th for him. You turned that into a 4th and another player. Jerome Baker's under contract.
He's 27. He was a 3rd-round pick in 2018 out of Ohio State to Miami. He's in his first year in Seattle.
That's a really good move. That, like I said, if you're going to do this thing, do it. That's why there's reticence to trade Jeff Simmons, or probably I bet Harold's a part of that conversation too. But I really think you gotta do as much as you can to prepare yourself, because we're talking about teams in the most hopeless situation. You got to be prepared that these teams are going to be worse than you, and that you're going to if you're going to try and draft the quarterback. And I don't necessarily know that the best solution here is drafting the quarterback, but let's say that that's the plan. you got to be prepared to jockey yourself up above Cleveland, the Patriots, and the Panthers to try and get the best quarterback solution. This is a part of it. So they're in fire sale mode. This is, I mean, I know it's, again, no silver linings at 1-5, but this is a good thing. This is a good thing. And Ernest Jones, by the way, did his job here well enough.
Both him and Hopkins and Ernest were kind of like investment properties, right? You bought them for less, and then you flipped them. You send them over. A little background on Jerome Baker, your new linebacker. In Seattle this year, in coverage, he's been targeted 15 times, given up 12. That's good for 80% of the targets his way are completions. Only missed 3 tackles, but only been involved in 30. That's good for a 9.1% missed tackle rate.
So, solid. Thank you, Bert, for the context. I think that there is a lot of different stuff here that plays into the notion of what we've talked about this team needing to do, even after they spent the money this offseason. What was the conversation? At some point, it's going to stop being sustainable to spend at the top of the free agent market to acquire players. You have to regenerate this thing organically. So now you take the steps that need to be taken to regenerate this thing as organically as humanly possible. So, names to keep an eye on at this point. I don't think Jeffrey Simmons belongs in this conversation yet. There does not seem to be any plan in place to trade Jeffrey Simmons, but we will continue to monitor that situation because everybody has a price. What's the next most tradable asset on the Titans roster? Because I think Quandre Diggs on a 1-year contract makes sense. I think he makes a lot of sense. He has been solid. Now, here's the thing. The one thing that you had to look forward to was your Titans defense, and now they're chipping away at that too, which they should. This is the correct move in real time. But it is crazy. Ernest Jones, we hardly knew you. You know, good guy to talk in the locker room too. Always transparent, always upfront about these things. We had him on the show. He was good. But now he's on his way to Seattle to try and help them win in the NFC West. We still have 2 weeks almost till the trade deadline. Maybe all these deals are going to be done well in advance. And this was a part of the reason why owners and the Players Association agreed to push the deadline back. I think you're going to have as much action this year at the deadline as you've ever seen, now that it's in the first week of November.
Fire sale. Here we go. Time to start building this thing through the draft.
Oh. Do you know what that means?
No.
Mock Draft Wednesday?
No.
Mock Draft Wednesday.
No.
Lucas, they have more draft picks than players now.
Great. Tell me the draft order, bud. What's the draft order? Oh, you don't know because we're 6 games in, so there's no point.
Mock Draft Wednesday.
They won't be picking in the 20s.
Feel pretty good about that. Ugh. So, now we are in this situation. What would you... Okay, so let's prioritize this in real time, because obviously we weren't preparing for the Ernest Jones trade necessarily, though we do expect there to be news throughout the course of not just today, but the next couple of weeks. How would you stack in real time? We can go around the room, and I can start if you want to give you guys some time. How would you stack the assets that you would want traded from the Titans next?
Harold Landry at the top of the list for me.
Is this an audition for Harold Landry this week in Detroit?
Yeah, because, again, you look around, contenders. Where is there a need? In Kansas City, there was a need for wide receiver. Seattle's season is very much still alive, however much you want to call them a Super Bowl contender or not. Clearly, there was a need there at linebacker. In Detroit, there is a massive need at edge rusher. Is there more of a window team than Detroit in terms of this is the time now?
Baltimore's tough. They are up against the edge with a cap space and a lot of these young players hitting contract time. You can't pay everyone. So
Ravens are in a similar situation.
I wouldn't disagree with the Ravens.
Okay, so what's the Ravens' biggest need?
Either cornerback, free safety, pass rusher.
Well, you can trade players on injured reserve. Cheeto Awuzie is on IR.
No, thank you.
You're not taking that contract. Do you want the L'Jarius Sneed contract?
No, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think so. See, this is
I just told you they're broke.
This is the problem with corner. Well, that's the thing. Like, Ernest Jones doesn't require you to eat money the way that DeAndre Hopkins did. There are other situations where and this is a part of keeping cap space. And this is why I don't necessarily... So you posed a theory during the break that I took issue with when Teresa was leaving about, the idea that they could set themselves up for a situation like this if the quarterback failed, like that this could have been planned to some extent, or at least accounted for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at least accounted for. I think we don't know, right? I don't know what the situation is, what the conversations were with Amy and everybody else.
They are being judged presently on what they sold people.
Yes, for sure. And they sold people meaningfully competitive. They sold people, hey, we're rebuilding, but we feel like we could be meaningfully competitive along the way. Sound familiar, by the way? Nashville. How often do we hear that with the Nashville Predators?
Competitive rebuild?
Yeah, but that's what they sold, right? That is what they sold here. So they didn't have a foundation after firing Mike Vrabel, right? They bring in Brian Callahan to bring the Titans into the modern NFL, right? A quarterback, offense-centric head coach to keep up with the rest of the league and what it's doing. So they tried in an offseason to flash cook a foundation, so to speak. Does that make sense? Mostly in free agency.
Microwave.
Yeah, because he didn't have any good draft picks.
Yep.
He just didn't. It was the only thing they could do to try and be meaningfully competitive along the way.
Don't disagree.
That hasn't worked. Right? So now you have to start building the foundation the way winning teams build their foundation. And that's in the draft. And things are bad right now. But you know how you fix it? By drafting well. Who was the most dysfunctional organization in the NFL 2 years ago?
The Texans.
It was the Texans. They had a mad preacher calling shots. Who was the GM of the Texans when they were at their highest point of dysfunction?
Was it Nick Caserio?
It was Nick Caserio. Nick Caserio's been the GM there since 2021. Mm-hmm. Nick Caserio stuck through it. Now, they had to get rid of the mad preacher.
Well, and they also had to stick with Nick Caserio.
They stuck with Nick Caserio.
They did not stick with the coaches that Nick Caserio hired.
Exactly. Right. They cycled through, but they hired the right coach, and he looks like the right coach because they nailed their draft picks. C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson, Derek Stingley, Nico Collins. They have been nailing draft picks left and right. Most importantly, the quarterback. And they have, in the span of less than 2 years, turned themselves into legitimate contenders by building through the draft and supplementing in free agency. So now the Titans are seemingly turning back towards that path. Okay, this is how we have to rebuild, how we have to build out this foundation. And the hope is everybody in that building was on the same page that, hey, this might not work. Where do we turn if it doesn't work? And to be doing this before the trade deadline, 2 weeks before it, feels like an indication that they are there, right? Okay, clearly this did not work. Now let's go build this thing the way winning championship contending teams build, and that is in the draft. And we're going to do it with these people that we hired to do the job.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible, but I don't. Because, and again, they can have said these things behind closed doors and not said it out loud because you can't say it out loud and not have sold people so much on what they were doing here, right? Like not gone above and beyond to make people think that this was going to be significantly different.
Sure, but you can't half do that, right? Hey, we might be good. Hope you buy some tickets, right? Like you can't do that halfway.
You can say we believe in you can moderate yourself. Because hyping yourself up in the offseason doesn't help you win a damn football game whatsoever. You can appropriately moderate. You can believe in your process. You can say, we know that there are external opinions about us, but we have our sense of belief. We know that, all the things, all the cliches that have been said a million times over that aren't inflammatory, like we crushed it, the hire.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
So you can bridge that gap. And that, I think, is it can be true, what you're saying, and also giving them wiggle room to move the goalposts on people now after some people have already signed up for season tickets and they're getting ready to host the second round of people. Go visit the Titans house, sign up for season tickets for the 2027 Titan Stadium. When in reality, how many of these people are going to be around in 2027 based on the way that this thing is going? I have zero confidence that anybody that is currently on the roster, coaching, running the team is going to be, other than the owner, is going to be around in 2027 the way that this thing is going.
I get what you're saying.
That's me being dramatic.
Yeah, and I agree with 2-15, 3-14, all bets are off because of what we've seen in recent years with ownership and decision-making at the very top.
Because that's the big part of that Texans thing is they went 2 years straight firing coaches.
But what was the honest discussion within the building between Rand Carthon and Amy Adams-Strunk? That is what we do not know. If there was an acknowledgement of, we're going to give Levis every chance, we think he could be the guy, but if he isn't, if we do get our answer, okay, let's really rebuild. We don't know what that discussion was. They might be all aligned over there and all, in their little group chat saying, all right, hey, got it wrong.
Oh, no.
I doubt there's a group chat.
Well, there is a group text, but they're not putting anything that can be put in print on it. God knows.
But yeah, you're right. The optics are tough. The optics are tough because they were selling meaningfully competitive. Absolutely. And we thought there was a chance for that, a chance to compete for a playoff spot. But we don't know what the discussion was in the building.
How about this? Andrew Clark on YouTube, all offseason we were lied to by the team and 104.5, to be honest about most things. I have less faith in the organization if they did this staff and team, if they thought this staff and team were going to be competitive. And I understand why you might feel that way because you are correct. I bought it.
They thought this team was going to be competitive because they thought the quarterback play was going to be good enough, and it hasn't been.
And the quarterback that they drafted is nuclear.
That's the glue. If the quarterback play was going to fall apart, everything else was always going to fall apart. The quarterback play fell apart. Here we are at 1-5.
So I understand if you feel like you've been lied to. I was looking. Listen, I thought I was going to be optimistic about the season. I was optimistic about this season, and everything's blown up in its face. We'll take a break. We might have more news coming back. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We're fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken and trade deadline news. So the latest. You've got the Titans moving on from DeAndre Hopkins early this morning. That reported by Adam Schefter first. Tom Pelissero adding to the fire sale. Ernest Jones being moved for a 4th-round pick and Jerome Baker to the Seattle Seahawks in exchange for Ernest Jones, who's probably going to get a contract extension. Wouldn't that be nice for Ernest Jones to get a contract extension on the back end of this just to go play the Rams? Have they already played the Rams once, the Seahawks, this year? Ernest Jones' former team? Anyway, we can effort that information for you here in just a second. We can also take your phone calls in reaction.
They are sliding, for what it's worth. Seahawks.
Backsliding?
They started 3-0.
Yeah.
They're 3-4.
They play in 2 weeks,
Yeah.
November 3rd, and then again in the final game of the season, January 5th. So 2 games against his former team.
So they have not played the Rams. Okay.
They did it the right week.
Also, Seahawks host the Bills this weekend, so I don't know if Ernest Jones is going to be active, but
Get another shot at him.
Timing works out there, I guess, for Seattle.
So here's the thing. Now that they're selling parts, 2 players does not a fire sale make, right? Like what would or does it?
It just indicates.
It indicates, yes, but it does not outright say, okay, they're prepared. Because my position on this has been the position that we started the show with. If you're going to do it, do it. Like, just rip the Band-Aid off. Enough of the trying to patch duct tape things back together.
You're saying if you're going to blow it up, blow it up.
Blow it up. Now, blowing it up does not mean that you can get rid of L'Jarius Sneed or Calvin Ridley or Devondre Sweat. Why would you? The long-term contracts that you've signed, people aren't taking on that guaranteed money because it's not an expiring deal like Ernest Jones or DeAndre Hopkins was. So there's a difference between blowing it up because you did try and build something this offseason. But the rest of it that is not going to be here beyond 2024, that can go. Now, what does the rest of it have to include? So I asked you to make a list of players, the 2 of you, who you think should be next if they're going to move pieces and parts. And if you did not do that, I can buy you some time because I've got my list here.
Well, I mentioned Landry at the top of it.
You did mention Harold Landry, and my point with Harold is they play the Detroit Lions next. Detroit has not traded for a viable Aiden Hutchinson replacement at this point. This is an ideal opportunity for Harold Landry to play against the Detroit Lions and then get traded to the Detroit Lions. He should be candidate number 1 on this list, and we can look up the details on Harold Landry's contract. The second player that I would put on this list, it's all these top 3 are all going to be defense because the defense is the only viable thing that they have to sell right now in the absence of DeAndre Hopkins, yes?
I have one piece on offense that I'd be curious about, but
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Quandre Diggs, who has played good football for this team, he's on a 1-year deal as well. Harold does have some time left on his deal, but this is the contractual out that they have built into his contract right now, so it's not a ton to take on Harold Landry's deal. Quandre Diggs would be the next on this list, and the position right now is that they are not going to trade Jeffrey Simmons. If they get offered a 1st-round pick for Jeff, I say you do it. I say you do it, depending on how high you think that 1st-round draft pick is going to be. I don't think they will. They should be willing to consider it at least. Everybody who was not signed this offseason or was not drafted this offseason in some way, shape, or form, I think should be an option. I don't care who they're running out there. At this point, I care that they still try to win as a coaching staff. I do care about that, but I don't care what the roster looks like at this point. If you're selling Hop and Ernest Jones IV, then keep going.
By the way, Titans have 8 draft picks right now.
Yep.
In 2025. 1st, a 2nd, no 3rd. 2 4ths, potentially a 3rd, 4th, if the D-Hop conditions allow him to take the Titans to take that pick from a 5th to a 4th. Another 5th, a 6th, and a 7th. 8 picks total right now.
Can I guess your offensive player?
Go ahead.
Nick Westbrook-Akina.
No. Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd, who's 29, and obviously, has not had the production that we thought possible coming in as the security blanket for Will Levis. But as we know, quarterback play has been dreadful. Tyler Boyd, by the way, how many yards do you think he has on the year?
Less than 100.
Wrong. He has 170.
Does he actually?
He has 3 less yards than DeAndre Hopkins.
That's crazy.
Who just got traded.
Why do I feel like Tyler Boyd has just been non-existent? And maybe because it's, I'm focused on quarterback sacks and things like that and quarterback specifically.
I wonder how many of his 18 catches came from Mason Rudolph.
That's a good question because I do feel like I heard his name more with Rudolph at quarterback.
5. He had 5 catches against Buffalo. He had a season high on Sunday.
Yeah.
5 catches for 43
I was going
yards.
to say that's
2
a
more
recent,
against the Dolphins.
And yeah, thank you. 2 more against the Dolphins. So
that's a recent thing.
So 7 of his 18 thrown by Mason Rudolph. So that's who came to mind for me on offense. Tyler Boyd, who is a bigger name than Nick Westbrook-Akine.
Tampa.
Who is 29, but right, exactly. A team like a Tampa.
Washington.
There are plenty of receiver-needy teams.
That's what I'm saying. Keep going at this point.
Yeah, that's the first offensive player that came into my mind after DeAndre.
I'm seeing some people in the F&M Bank chat. We could also take your phone calls on this. In fact, we will do that coming up next. We've talked about who are the most likely Titans fall guys, but we can continue to rehash that conversation. And by the way, Brian Callahan's going to speak at 12. He's scheduled to speak at 12:15 today. Do we think he's actually going to be at the podium at 12:15?
No.
Do we think he's going to be at the podium by the time the show ends?
No. Or yeah, by the show. But yes, by the time the show
I'm
ends.
saying, like, they're not done. They shouldn't be done.
We'll be ready for him regardless.
You think they trot him out there if they're still working some stuff back there? I bet they try to push it off. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Lake lovers, listen up. Tennessee National, a highly anticipated lakefront resort, golf, and marina community, is having a fall sales event, releasing a limited number of lake lots to the public with upgrades and savings. One day only, Saturday, October 26th. You can get an outdoor living space upgrade plus 2 years free boat rentals plus 2 years free social membership. You can also get 2 years free pontoon rentals plus 2 years free social membership at Tennessee National. A private golf course with golf cart access to a new marina and resort, 10 miles of walking trails, 3.5 miles of shoreline, a brand new 26,000 square foot clubhouse, waterfront concerts overlooking a beautiful lake, pickleball, pools, on-site coffee shop, and so much more. You can play on the lake or simply relax at the waterfront restaurant just over 20 minutes from Knoxville, Tennessee. Financing is available, so call to secure your private tour because times are limited. Enjoy life on the water, fresh air, boat rides, and sunshine. Celebrate the lake life and make memories. This limited property release, Saturday, October 26th. You can visit us online at TennesseeNational.com or give us a call, 865-408-9992. Memories begin here.
It is 12:01. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The Titans made another trade earlier today, sending linebacker Ernest Jones the fourth to Seattle in exchange for linebacker Jerome Baker and a fourth-round draft pick. Titans acquired Jones just this past offseason in a trade with the LA Rams. This comes, of course, after the news this morning that the Titans are trading wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins to the Kansas City Chiefs. In exchange, the Titans get a fifth-round pick that could become a fourth-rounder. At the moment, the Titans have 8 draft picks for the 2025 NFL Draft. Titans are also preparing for a trip to Detroit to take on the Lions Sunday. Brian Callahan will meet with the media coming up at 12:15. You can hear it live right here on The Zone. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Oh, you just used the same thing that you did with Tannehill.
No, he used Creed with Tannehill.
Oh, I thought this was Creed for some reason.
This is... I can't with you.
Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. That's our in memoriam for DeAndre Hopkins, who gets sent away for a conditional fifth-round pick that could become a fourth-round pick to the Kansas City Chiefs because he's going to go win, and you're not doing any winning of consequence this year. Ernest Jones also traded to the Seattle Seahawks for Jerome Baker and a fourth-round pick, so a player on an expiring contract you get back or you send away for a player under contract and a pick for you to recoup. The total draft picks now on the Titans fire sale is 8, and the position of the radio show, if I'm not mistaken, is Keep Going.
You were with us when we saw the Foo Fighters play that song live.
Yeah, Bonner was awesome.
Yeah, you remember when he brought his daughter up there, how bad that was?
That was bad.
It was terrible. Kind of like, doesn't this remind you a little bit of the Kevin Byard trade where they send a player away, but they get someone to fill his place, maybe not as good, but draft picks in the same way? Like, I know it's not the same level as Byard, but the same kind of trade. You're trading away a solid starter to get some pieces and someone to fill his void.
Yeah.
Who else do you think that they should trade? Because you have not brought up any names yet. Lucas has volunteered Harold Landry. He has also volunteered Tyler Boyd. I am in favor of Quandre Diggs and Jeff Simmons if you get the right offer. Right now, they are not willing to move Jeff Simmons, but if they get the right offer, they damn well should be. Who would you volunteer as tribute?
If I was in Brinker and Rand's shoes, I would be tossing Roger McCreary's name around to anyone who would listen. He is still in his rookie deal, so he is cheap. He's owed $2.2 million next year, so you get a bonus year out of him. Unlike DeAndre, unlike the linebacker they've traded.
The only salvageable pick from John Robinson's last 3 drafts. You want to send him away?
Yeah, I would send him away because I don't think his value is going to be greater than it is right now when you could still have him under – you trade for him, you get him cheap, and you get him under contract for another year. If someone would call in and say, hey, I'll give you a fourth-round pick for Roger McCreary, he'd be on the next plane. But that's just me. Maybe Titans fans have a connection with Roger. Like, you can't get rid of him. He's a huge building block. But in my opinion, You're not going to be competitive next year, or at least competitive in nature where you would need Roger to start for you, have to start for you.
Are you going to invest more money also at the corner position? Because you gave Snead and Awuzie a lot of money.
Well, how much would Jarvis Brownlee's continued performance impact that at all? That you have a young quarterback on a rookie contract earlier in his rookie contract to build around. That looks good with the value of a fourth-round pick.
Should be primarily in the slot, in the nickel, as opposed to playing outside, which he's currently being asked to do.
And I think we can all agree that they would be drafting more corners. If you've got, if this trade happens and they get another pick, that would be 9 draft picks. You are taking a corner with one of those picks, if not more. So you would have bodies to fill it without having to sign someone to a lengthy contract like Chidobe.
Do you have your draft eligible corner list ready for Mock Draft Wednesday?
Shut up. Not that poor ECU corner. Maybe his stock fell a little bit from that injury, Robert.
I see so many people still putting him in the first round, and ECU has not had a first-round pick since Chris Johnson. So I don't know. I don't know if you can draft a cornerback who tore his ACL months into the college season without people being like, hey, that's Caleb Farley's music. You know what I mean?
Well, you can't have Jamal McCoy yet. He's only 19 years old.
And also, you don't want to lose him because he's actually playing winning football, and the Titans are far, far away from it.
What about Nick Folk? Who needs a kicker?
The only source of consistent points. The only source of consistent offense for this godforsaken team.
It could have been the Packers before Brandon McManus hit that game winner last week.
Yep. They let go of Narvison.
Cut the Narv dog, right?
Yeah, he fell off.
Titans legend. Who does need a kicker? There have been kicker injuries, haven't there? And Nick Folk has done nothing but do his job. That's what the conversation. We still have 2 more weeks before the halfway point.
Not to double dip here, but do you guys think Chig would be a tradable asset? Do you think you would be able to get something for him to make it worth it for you to move off of him?
Okay, so what's worth it? Chig was a 5th round pick?
Give me what I paid. You know he can play.
Do you?
He can play, yeah. I wouldn't say he's an all-pro or a world beater. He's not even David Njoku.
Would you say he's good?
Yeah, I'd say he's good. I'd say Chig is good. Good.
I would say solid. I don't know that I would go good.
How much of a differentiate? What is that, 50
ball
yards?
Security. The differentiation is ball security, and Chig has difficulty not fumbling the football, whether it's in training camp or real-life situations. He has ball security issues.
And if you were going to trade him, you probably should have already done it. So, either way.
No, I listen, I'm not. It's everybody should be on the table, right? Like we're talking about these guys, everybody but the players that you signed to long-term contracts. And honestly, those players should be on the table too, but you're not getting anybody to take those guaranteed money deals right now.
And this isn't tangible, but like, not to twist the knife, everyone else that's left here has played better everywhere else they go. Now, so, like, wouldn't you make the argument that Chig could also play better in another place?
Oh, sure. I would also argue that you've already set yourself up to try and move Chig. Like, I don't think as an organization, you should try to move Chig, because what else have you been doing with Thomas Odukoya and DMR on the practice squad, if not safeguarding them from another team, scooping them up off your practice squad? Because Odukoya, I mean, DMR hasn't been active for a game yet. Odukoya was just active for his first game on Sunday against Buffalo. You've been hoarding these tight ends. Sure, if you can make a move.
Are you more likely to get something for Chig or Tyler Boyd?
I would think Boyd. Boyd is more reliable. Boyd is a more consistently proven product as a player. I know he's in an advanced age, and he may not be, the Tyler Boyd of 25 years old or 26 years old, but he's fine.
3 years younger than D-Hop with the same amount of production this year. Not saying he's DeAndre Hopkins, but
he's fine. Like, he's a fine slot receiver. Yeah, kicker should be on the table. 615-737. They should all be on the table. 615-737-1045 is the number if you would like to weigh in. Before I open it up to the calls, I want to revisit a conversation that we had in the noon hour yesterday. Do you feel any differently? I don't necessarily know that either of you were against moving Will Levis in the offseason, like getting to the end of the season and then trying to trade Will Levis, a la Pittsburgh Steelers, Commanders, and who else trade? Atlanta Falcons, with the 3 quarterbacks that got moved this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Are you in favor or are you against moving Will Levis at the end of the year? Because I was staunchly in favor of yesterday, and now I'm even more in favor of it.
No, of course, if you're going to move on from Will Levis, again, if the answer is Will Levis is not the answer.
Sure, but
yes.
are you? So you're not even willing to let him compete for the quarterback job next year with whomever you might bring in, because Mason Rudolph is on a 1-year deal.
We went into this season with the premise of we're finding out one way or another. This is the timeline. So, no, I wouldn't want to do that halfway. Well, maybe keep working with him and he competes for it next year. You find out this year or you don't. Is it fair? I don't know. Maybe he'll be a fine, backup quarterback in 3 years. Maybe he'll be Sam Darnold in a few years. I don't know, but that's not the timeline you set. So, no, I would go with what the plan was coming in.
Move him where? What would you even get for Levis? You could get more for Levis than you did for Desmond Ridder or Sam Howell. Those were not high-end quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett was not a high-end quarterback. In fact, it's a tribute to Mike Tomlin that he won as many games with Kenny Pickett as he did. So you can move these young quarterbacks because they are cheap. And they should at the end of the year. Brian Callahan's press conference is allegedly going to be next. We're going to carry it. He's got a lot of questions to answer. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Brian Callahan's press conference is ongoing. Titans trading players, though the move's not made official yet by the team, even if the players are making them official on their own social media accounts. In DeAndre Hopkins and Ernest Jones IV, we go live now to the Titans press conference. We will hear in just a second, but for what it's worth, we do have some updates. Brian Callahan saying, I did not sit DeAndre Hopkins on Sunday. He was held out because of soreness. He also said of the trade rumors, I would expect some movement on our roster for the next period of time. He says, aware of everything out there, not anything I can comment on specifically. I expect some movement on our roster here in the next period of time, is how he is being quoted. So that is Brian Callahan at the podium. We will go live to that here in just a moment. With everything that's going on, though, somebody just said on YouTube, I dare a reporter ask what quarterback he likes in the draft. Mock Draft Wednesday for Brian Callahan, too. Their mock drafts are going on. Damn sure that's true. But
no, their evaluation is going on.
Mock drafts. What is an evaluation if not a mock draft?
It's very, very different.
It doesn't seem to be. Doesn't seem to be from the outside, bud. I don't know what it's like in the war room, but it doesn't seem to be that different.
I'm sure they're just clicking around on draftnetwork.com.
Let's go to Brian Callahan's press conference now.
Work their way up.
Yeah, there'll be opportunity. I think there'll be some opportunities for guys to get off the practice squad potentially. We'll work through those as it comes up, but definitely got guys that have played a lot for us now that are.
Stream drop.
What that looks like, I'm not quite concrete on yet.
In terms of, Will, he had a good rapport with Hopkins. That was one of his favorite targets last year and somewhat this year. How does that affect him going forward?
Yeah, I think that's part of playing quarterback in the NFL. Your faces change sometimes. Yeah, I think you don't always have. Guys' contracts are up. Guys' contracts are extended. You sign new players, and so there's every year is part of that process, and you have to find ways to get comfortable with whoever you're throwing to. That's part of the job, and I know that him and Will and Hop have been a good connection together for the early part of Will's career, and aided in his development for sure. But that's part of playing. That's part of playing the position that these things change, and you have to be able to adapt.
Who are your offensive leaders at this point?
Tony Pollard certainly jumps off the page. Lloyd Cushenberry's been fantastic with that offensive line room. I think we got with JC as he's learning and playing better and better. His leadership is growing. Tyler Boyd certainly is one of those guys that people lean on. He's got good leadership skills and ability. He's been a captain. He was a captain on our Super Bowl team, so I know what he's all about, and he's done a good job of that. And then there's, I think Tajay's grown as a leader. I think he's done a nice job. So we got guys that know how to lead, and we got some young players that are learning to find their voices too, and I think that's a positive thing. So I feel good about the leadership, and I'm certainly welcome to more of it.
How important is it to you that the guys who you look to lead produce? Is production a necessary element of leadership?
I think the reality of professional sports is that production matters. It's a part of the equation. I don't think you have to necessarily be an all-pro player to be a good leader, and we rely on a lot of guys to lead in that way. But yeah, the production sometimes cements your ability to command because of what you've done on the field. But there's different types of leadership, certainly. And we have guys that can produce. Like I think Tony Pollard produces and leads. I think Tyler Boyd has produced and led. And then there's guys that are learning to find leadership roles and maybe don't produce in the way that the numbers and statistics bear out. The guys like Lloyd and JC and Pete to some degree, those guys are learning how to lead from a spot where production isn't necessarily measurable. So, yeah, I think that it goes hand in hand. I mean, generally production isn't necessarily measurable. So, yeah, I think that it goes hand in hand. I mean, generally speaking, your best leaders are often your best players. If it's in a perfect world, that's what you hope for. But there's certainly avenues to lead where production doesn't necessarily be the main focal point.
Obviously, the guys that are rumored to be on their way out, you didn't expect that to happen. How much did this 1-5 record that you guys have now, how much did that impact the change the direction that you guys are going?
No, it's the reality of the NFL. That's the reality of the NFL business. And when you're in a spot that we're in, one that we didn't want to be in, didn't expect to be in necessarily, but when you're in those spots, these are the things that come with it. That's part of our life in the league. And when you get to these juncture points in the season and things like this happen, I mean, it's usually because you're in the spot we're in. The teams that are opposite of our record are the ones trying to acquire players, and so that's just the cycle, and that's how it works. And we're in a spot right now that I'm trying to find a way to dig out of, but that's the reality of business in the NFL.
You went through some tough times early on in Cincinnati, kind of a similar spot here where you have some young talent, and now they have the opportunity to play. How do you keep their head on straight and kind of build a new foundation, it sounds like, as you guys are selling?
I wouldn't say it's building a new foundation. I mean, we're trying to build the foundation, period. But the way that you sell it is there's opportunities. I mean, these guys are going to get chances to play, and the hope and the expectation is that they step up and take advantage of it. They seize the opportunity, and again, they're still, we got a team full of guys that are still here that are going to play good football, and that's the other part of it is it gets magnified. But there's still a whole locker room of guys down here that are playing hard and playing for each other, and that's what we're looking for. So again, opportunities will arise, and guys got to take advantage of them.
Early in the week, but do you anticipate we'll be able to do some things today? And what's the outlook a couple of days after we talk to you?
Yeah, the outlook is we'll probably give Will one more week. We'll see how the week goes. He's still in that week-to-week mode, and I'm not necessarily ruling him out. But I do think that we're going to take a look and let Mason take more reps this week to get ready to play and see how Will comes through the week. But I think he's getting better every day, and he'll be out there doing a little bit of work as well, just working back. So that's kind of where it stands, and there's nothing official on that at this point, but probably leaning towards Mason one more week and let Will have one more week of rest.
Plan to give him as much on Thursday as he did last week, or to peel that back?
For Will?
For Will, yeah.
The plan on last Thursday was to find out for sure if he could play.
This Thursday, are you going to do that again, or is it going to be peeled back?
It'll be peeled back. Yeah.
And Mason, what would you like to see him do better? What can you do better around him?
Yeah, I think we can protect him better. There's part of that. I think that we gave up too many hits at the end of the day in that game. Try to give him a cleaner pocket, things that we can do to help there. I do think that he found completions when he had to, and I think we can keep working on that. We can keep finding the completions. He could hit a couple of the plays that we missed. We got to connect on a couple of those plays that were available. But look, this is a really, really good football team. We're getting ready to go play. We got a huge challenge on our hands. They are everything that you want to be in a football team. And when you look at the way they've built their team, it's really impressive on what they've done. They're sort of the model right now on how to build a team and make them a contender. And it's fun to see what they've done and the journey they've been on. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Dan Campbell and his coaching staff. But we got a big challenge, and Mason's got a challenge ahead of him too if he's the one playing. That these guys are a very, very, very good defense.
Greg coming along in his return to.
It's coming along well, and we'll see where. Again, obviously his window. This is the last week of his window. We'll have to make that decision here. I think Monday is the decision day. So, we'll make that decision when it comes. But he's done a good job.
Does Isaiah Prince have a chance to be plug and play as early as this week?
Plug and play early as this week? No, probably not. That's that's probably aggressive. But we'll see what we have. Obviously, I've had some familiarity with Isaiah. I've been with him before. He's played a lot of football for us in Cincinnati over a couple of years he was there. And so just a chance to add another player that can come compete on the roster at the position. And so we'll see how he comes along. But I think this week would be a tough ask.
Now that you're a little bit shorthanded numbers-wise at receiver, Where does Colton Dowell stand in his recovery process?
He's still in the recovery process. He's getting closer. He's in the building every day. He's in meetings. I see him all the time. He's doing well. I don't know that he necessarily is ready now to get going, but that's another one of the things that we'll look at as these weeks go by, and when he might have a chance to start his return to play window.
What do you like about the way Nick Westbrook-Akine has approached his opportunities so far?
It's been great. Everything about Nick is what he's been here for his time, and he's knows what to do. He knows how to do it. He plays hard. He's an unselfish player. He's just everything that you want for a receiver in that role, where you're sort of asked to do a bunch of different things. He plays all the positions. He does some dirty work. He goes and blocks, and he's got consecutive touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. Nick just finds a way to produce, and that's one of the things that you love about him. And everything, I love the person on top of it, but he's an undrafted free agent that had to earn his way, and that's what you see in his style of play. And so everything about his help for our offense has been major. It's been a major help for him coming along and finding a role for us. And his role will likely increase.
Everyone talks about Detroit's offense and the creativity. Ben Johnson was another name being thrown around all offseason as a head coaching candidate. What do you see out of his play design, play calling, whatever it may be, that you say, hey, this is why Detroit has found so much success?
Yeah, Ben I've known Ben for a long time, and he is a fantastic football coach. Great feel for scheme and putting players in position. They've collected quite a group of players on top of it. They've really done a nice job. He puts Jared Goff in great position. Jared's probably the most efficient passer right now in football. And then they got a good offensive line that they've built over time there that's really, really physically impressive. So all the things that Ben does, he puts guys in position. They have all these really good players that he gets to go move around and have a bunch of fun with them. And they're all playing at a high level. And I think what you see from them offensively is a ton of confidence and a ton of belief in what they're doing and how they're doing it. And it took time to get there for them. And they've done a really nice job of adding and building. And then when it's been time to go play and execute, they're the ones making plays at the end of games to win like they did last week.
Did you address the team yet today about this flurry moves?
No, I have not. There was not anything to address this morning yet. So that'll come at some point. But no, I have not officially addressed the team on this stuff until it's all done.
Dajani and Keandre, are they working their way back closer?
Yes, those two should be working at practice in some form or fashion. Again, we'll see what they end up fully doing, but expect to have them at practice and hopefully have both of them this weekend, but we'll see.
Yeah, good. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. That's Brian Callahan at the podium. Players haven't been addressed yet because nothing's been made official. And I get that, right? You want to do it in one fell swoop because you don't want to get up in front of them, talk to a bunch of guys, some who may be moved, which would indicate that there are more moves yet to come, is what I take from that answer. Or at least more moves that they're trying to make. Whether or not they are able to execute those deals or not remains to be seen. But that's Brian Callahan talking today, and apparently Will Levis is also not going to play in Detroit.
That's where they're leaning, he says.
That's where they're leaning. But I would take him. Well, I don't know that. I mean, I don't say that I would take him at his word on it casually or sarcastically on purpose to imply that he would intentionally mislead people. I would just say that the messaging between the coach and the quarterback about the quarterback has been a bit off.
What do you mean?
Would expect Will Levis to be limited in practice the week before he's a full participant all the way up to the Colts game. The situation about the shoulder impacting the throw from Will Levis and
the
Brian
interception.
Callahan. Yeah, I mean, there's been, again, maybe I'm nitpicking, but everything at 1 and 5 gets nitpicked.
Yeah, we don't know if the game against the Colts aggravated the shoulder or if something happened during practice to aggravate the shoulder to the point where he couldn't play. Yeah,
I mean,
maybe it all built up.
Yeah.
Right.
So, players aren't going to be addressed until the moves are done. Are the moves done today? Because I would not expect that to be done today. You still have 2 more weeks to the trade deadline.
I was going to say today. We got 14 days.
Are you just not going to say anything to these guys until such time as the trade deadline passes and you say, all right, those of you who made it, mark's safe.
Hypothetically, one of the most talked about trade targets, they play this week. So they're not going to trade anybody to Detroit so they can play this week. They would wait till after this week to send them to Detroit.
How about Harold Landry getting 3 sacks against the Lions on Sunday and then Detroit brass saying, we want that?
That is exactly the position that they should be taking. Harold is on the precipice. He's already up there with Javon Curse and Derek Morgan as far as the franchise people who are on the record list of the most sacks for the franchise. He's obviously not past Derek Morgan, although I think he's getting close to Derek. Has not passed Curse, obviously, as well, but he's been here long enough. He's just survived long enough. He's the longest tenured Titan. So for the longest tenured Titan, wouldn't you do him a solid and say, okay, go win a Super Bowl or go try and win a Super Bowl against Hopkins, Detroit, Kansas City? Titans legends on either side? Sell the farm.
What was your Super Bowl prediction? It was Jets, Lions?
Jets, Packers.
Jets, Packers.
I don't know.
Not even the cool NFC North team.
Yeah.
There are two cooler NFC North teams than the Packers this year. And then Jordan Love got hurt in Brazil, and that sent that whole thing spiraling because I also picked Love to be my MVP. Who is the MVP right now?
Lamar? Lamar is the favorite, followed by,
Derek.
I believe it's Josh Allen, and then Jared Goff.
Yeah, Derek ain't winning MVP.
No, but he should be. He should be up there.
If Derek wasn't even close to winning MVP during his 2,000-yard season, he ain't coming close to winning MVP.
He got one vote in the 2000
that's what I'm saying.
season.
Like, Offensive Player of the Year, not happening at MVP. But yeah, those three quarterbacks, Allen, Jackson, and Goff.
So, Tom Pelissero has tweeted the full DeAndre Hopkins trade per sources. Titans get a 2025 fifth-round pick that becomes a fourth-rounder if Kansas City reaches the Super Bowl and Hopkins plays 60% of snaps as a Chief. So it's not or, it's and. Both things have to happen for the Titans to get a fourth-round pick. They had no leverage in this deal.
Titans got a reason to root for the Chiefs.
Chiefs get DeAndre Hopkins, plus Tennessee pays Hopkins $2.5 million to finalize the deal. So they have to get to the Super Bowl. He has to play 60% of the snaps, and you have to pay $2.5 million to buy that pickup to a fourth. And it's not even going to be a good fourth. It may as well be a fifth because it's the Kansas City Chiefs. Right?
The Chiefs can be so petty with this, too, and just if they're up in games.
What do you mean?
Well, if they're up in games, they can sit him. So this pick, he does not hit the 60% threshold.
Oh, they should?
It would make sense to sit him.
So dumb.
Yeah. They're handcuffed here. It's. Robert, are you ready for that discourse when it's a Ravens-Chiefs? No.
What were you saying there?
Go ahead and bring up the question again. See if he hears you this time. Go ahead.
What did you think I was saying?
I was thinking am I have any plans for the Super Bowl?
No, I was going to say if Ravens-Chiefs AFC Championship and Titans fans are rooting for the...
He just faded your microphone is on, but nobody can hear you because he faded you down.
Kept turning. Dude, your life was like a...
You can't hear yourself? You got headphones on, you dope.
Never mind.
Didn't know what you were saying there. Sorry. It's probably some interference back here.
The Russians, they're screwing with our signal. Oh my God. So the D-Hop trade is a bad one. It's a good one because you got something. But it's a bad trade, right? Like the Ernest Jones trade is a good trade. We can objectively say that the D-Hop trade looks less glamorous.
No, this is how we talked about a D-Hop trade, though. We read the Bill Barnwell projecting. This is exactly what he projected. Fifth-round pick for DeAndre Hopkins.
Projected a fifth-round pick straight up for DeAndre Hopkins.
You're right. Not all the caveats of paying half the salary.
Not the conditions, not the potential to buy it up to a fourth. He just said a straight-up fifth. It doesn't make it an outright bad deal because the deal needed to be done. You need draft capital, but it is not the best deal. Well, let me say this. It is the best deal that you could get. You had no leverage, right? Like if you're going to argue that the Titans got a bad deal on this, then you have to argue that they had a leg to stand on here other than DeAndre Hopkins, who is off to, again, the worst statistical start of his 12-year career because your offense doesn't work. Not because of him. It's not his fault because your offense doesn't work. That's the thing that really sticks with me about this coaching staff, and I know it starts and ends with the quarterback, and that especially with the wide receivers, they are the most dependent position. In order to produce, you need quarterback play, but also, what has Hop done, regardless of who's played quarterback his entire career?
Just ball.
Produce. And the fact that they can't even get that right, there's more questions here than just the quarterback. even if the quarterback is the root of all, I don't want to say evil because that means that implies something that I don't think is fair to Levis. But if the source of your problems is the quarterback, there are still questions that the coaching staff has to answer beyond quarterback is scapegoat. No, look here. We'll get rid of him at the end of the year, I promise, and then I'll go get my guy. Okay.
Yeah, like special teams, right? All year has been a struggle. Right? There's other things we can talk about, but I will repeat, this thing was always going to fall apart if the quarterback play fell apart because it was all built around this guy as the quarterback. Quarterback play is falling apart. They are 1-5.
Last call for phone calls. I guess I'm going to go to practice today. Who's going to be left in the locker room for us to talk to after practice today? Who's even going to be out there on the field? I guess that's a reason enough alone to go to practice. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by the trade deadline, even though it's 2 weeks away, and Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Last call for phone calls if you got them. Then we got what? Super polls? What is a
super polls?
That sounds like a mattress sale.
Again, I'm still mad at us that we almost had a deal done with Deja Vu to sponsor the polls and that fell through.
That would have been great.
Such a missed opportunity. 615-737-1045 is the number. Bradley in Nashville is next.
Hey, man, I just wanted to reach out and, why is Rand not under any type of fire? He's the one that made the judgment call on Will Levis and spent all this money just for us to start wheeling and dealing yet again. But I can kind of see why Vrabel wanted to have more of an opportunity to have a part of what the roster was. And it kind of seems like our current coach was a little upset there at his interview and didn't really give very clear answers around the table.
Well, yeah, he's not going to give clear answers because nothing's been made official by the team yet. And who says Rand Carthon's not being scrutinized? I mean, they're all being scrutinized. They're 1-5. We did a whole segment on Fall Guys for a reason. Specifically
right.
That way.
So why spend the money?
Why spend the money? Because they thought that they thought the quarterback that they drafted. They thought the quarterback that they drafted was not going to fail as spectacularly as it did, and they were wrong. Oh, he hung up.
Yeah, we may never know who the loudest voice was in drafting Levis, right?
Sure.
Because remember, Carthon came in, he was hired in January of that year, 2023, before the 2023 draft.
Would have had to have been January.
Yeah, and he walked in where the draft board was largely set with Ryan Cowden and Mike Vrabel and their staff. So we have no idea. We may never know between Vrabel, Miss Amy, Ryan Cowden, Rand Carthon, who the loudest voice was, but he was the GM when that pick was made, and he was aligned in building around Will Levis this offseason.
Collaboration, baby. Collaboration. Michael is in Murfreesboro up next.
Hey, buddy.
Yo.
Hey, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah.
Day one Titans fan. And an even longer Miami Hurricanes fan. I'm trying not to be biased at all with this, with what I'm going to say, but I believe that if any team that does not have their franchise quarterback that is picking in the top 5 that passes up on Cam Ward is making a huge mistake. Titans included.
Mock Draft Wednesday?
Shut up.
Mock Draft Wednesday. Super polls. You ready? Let's do it.
Super polls are presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. When we combine the polls from yesterday and today, because we just didn't have time to get to it yesterday, do you support the Titans turning back to Will Levis when he is healthy? Brian Callahan said they're still taking it week to week. They're leaning towards Mason Rudolph this Sunday, but we'll see. 81.7% of the audience say yes, play him when he's healthy. I mean, if we're still doing the evaluation of Will Levis thing, you can do that without DeAndre Hopkins. You can still evaluate the quarterback, taking away what has been his most reliable option.
You can, I guess. Yeah, you
sure.
can.
That's where we're at.
Sure, you can. If that's what you want to do. God, good luck. God bless.
If you need to see more, sure.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm set. I don't need to see any more.
Will we look at the Bama game as a turning point for Nico Iamaleava? 59% are saying yes.
These are from yesterday, aren't they?
That's what I said.
Okay, yes.
Will the Preds get their first win tonight?
Yeah.
51% of the haters and the doubters said no, they won't, and they did. They did it. Super Bowl! 4-0 over the Boston Bruins. The Preds are 1-5.
That's as impressed with Robert Walsh as I think I've ever been. The quick turnaround.
That was fantastic. Who should be, or no, I skipped one. What's the dumbest thing?
Oh, by the way, big week for the haters and the doubters because the haters and the doubters have the Titans at 6.5 over-under win total, and they are going way under.
Super Bowl! What's the dumbest thing in sports this week? V-Love says Vince Young being honored as an SEC legend despite never playing a down with an SEC patch on his jersey. I missed this.
It's really good. There's some kind of annual thing where they induct
the Legends class.
The Legends class.
Yeah, and Texas football tweeted that Vince Young has been named a member of the 2024 SEC Legends class.
Man, it's like Dolly Parton going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You just take all the good people if you can and stick them in there.
Super Bowl!
You're an idiot.
Oh, man. That's a great submission by V-Love. Who should be the next Titans player on the trade block? Taryn says Will Levis. Few folks saying Arden Key. Forsyth says Tyler Boyd, Harold Landry, and maybe Nick Folk. Sounds like he was listening to the show.
If you can get somebody to take Arden Key, then yeah. But I don't know. Harold's way more viable as somebody that a team would want. And now here's the thing about Arden is Arden's on an expiring deal. This is the last year of Arden Key's contract, isn't it? No, second year of Arden Key's contract. He signed a 3-year, $21 million deal last offseason. So this is the second year of Arden Key's contract, which would mean that he's not quite a rental, but maybe there's something there.
What does the Hopkins trade? What does the Hopkins trade signal about the Titans' opinion of Will Levis? Karen says she doesn't think it changes anything. Anthony says Levis is not showing promise as a franchise quarterback, so he doesn't deserve the nice things. Oh, man, harsh there by Anthony.
I mean, I just don't think that you're really actually evaluating the quarterback if you're going to take the most reliable receiver that the quarterback has.
Debbie says it showed that Will Levis is not going to be the future. Brian says it showed that the evaluation is complete, that they have seen all they need to see.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I agree with that assessment. My position is even if you play him this season, you try and get the best stuff on tape. Now, I don't know if he hurts or helps his stock more by playing at this point, because teams are going to look around and be like, oh, that
Great
guy?
question.
I don't know.
There's another reason to play Will Levis, right? I mean, I guess that's the gamble, right? Can you get anything out of him to continue to evaluate your head coach and to raise any sort of trade stock?
Whatever it is, ride it out to the end of the year. You're not moving him before the deadline, obviously, but ride it out, whatever the quarterback situation looks like, and then try and best move him at the end of the year for a team that's willing to give him up for a day 3 pick.
Yeah, and as we know,
day 3 pick.
When healthy, Will Levis is going to play quarterback for this team. We just don't know. It doesn't look like that's going to be this week yet.
I don't know, man. If Mason Rudolph does anything of consequence, Mason Rudolph gave them the best quarterback play they've had all season. I don't know. I know that's what they're saying, but whatever.
Super Bowl!
What did you think about the return on the D-Hop trade? 68.8% say it was appropriate. 31.2% say should have got more.
It is appropriate. I don't think you were going to get more. It just speaks to the lack of leverage that you had. So it's okay to be disappointed and also acknowledge that was appropriate.
Those are the polls.
Excellent.
Oh, no, that's not what they're called.
Those are the
Super Bowl!
Presented by Two Rivers Ford.
South's most trusted Ford dealer. All right.
Poll for later this week is, do you care about what gives the Titans the best chance to win?
Oh, well, we know the answer to that.
Right. Well, but you keep bringing up Mason Rudolph as best chance to win.
That's for the coaching staff. Like, the coaching staff needs to show that they can win something.
Impossible situation.
11 more weeks. Stick around. I'm going to practice. I guess we're going to go see who's left in the locker room, who's out on the practice field. Does it mean they're getting traded? Does it not? I have no idea. We'll talk about it tonight on Primetime. Have a great rest of your day.